Hey everyone, welcome to the second episode of CryptoSetups, the podcast where we interview people who are building in crypto, who are working in crypto, anything to do with crypto. Hopefully, it gives you a bit of an insight into how things work in this space. And with us today, we have the team that is officially going to be launching two blockchains in the Polkadot ecosystem. One is Snow and one is Ice. One connects to Kusama, one connects to Polkadot. So I've got them here. They're going to tell us their tale about what it's like building a blockchain. And with me, I've got Digital Dave, who's going to help co-host. And on the show, we have Mo and Abhi. Welcome to the show, guys. I'll just put you all on main screen. Guys, why don't we do a round of intros? Mo, why don't you take lead things? Who are you? What do you do in this space? What kind of experience do you have? And then Abhi will flick to you so you can tell us your tale as well.
Hi, Fez. Thanks for the introduction. My name is Mo. I work as a CTO at Web3 Labs, and I've been a partner with Icon Foundation for about more than a year and a half now, pretty much. And as part of the Ice and Snow core development team, I work with Abhi and a few other members on the development of Ice and Snow.
Cool. Okay, Abhi?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Bez, for the introduction. Yeah. My name is Abhi. I work as a head of engineering at Breeze 23. Have about 10 years of experience in working in the software engineering industry. And for the last 2 years, been working on the Web3 space, especially a lot of work on with the Icon ecosystem. And like Mo mentioned, I'm one of the guys or teams working with them, building the Snow and the Ice blockchain, and also building a developer ecosystem around it.
Cool.
Do I get an introduction too?
I was going to say, David, do you want to introduce yourself? Because
Absolutely.
This is the first time we're on CryptoSetups co-hosting.
It is, and it's exciting. I guess I'm my name's Dave, and I'm the CPO, the Chief Podcast Officer of the CryptoSetups Podcast. Very happy to be co-hosting today, and excited and curious to be picking some big brains in blockchain here. We're going to ask questions about building Snow. We're going to ask questions about what it's like to do that, how it works, and I suppose dissect a couple of the harder to understand terms that get thrown around a lot. So let's kick it off, Ez.
Yeah, go ahead. What you got for them?
I've got a question here, and it's about building Snow. Really, we know that there's an Ice and Snow team that's building Snow. But there's this concept that the Icon Foundation has pushed forward, which is decentralized building, where there's not a centralized team, but it's actually multiple organizations that come together and form a team and start building. As you guys just mentioned in your introduction, there is you guys work for different organizations. How many organizations or teams are involved in building Snow at the moment? What does that look like? I'm just going to ask Mo this one.
Yeah, sure. We're spread out pretty much between I would say about 15 people or so. We're part of this is a core development team between us and Abhi. Are the teams concerned with the core development of the network, the substrate side of things, and the everything that has to do with the actual hands-on development. And then we have other teams that public facing, doing the and I think Dave, you've been doing a lot on that side in terms of publications and communicating, dealing with being the face for the community and so on. And then we have people like Galen, who's just joined on the mouse build side. They help a lot on the product development and ideas around the ecosystem and economics and being sort of thought leader in the space as well. Shows a lot of engagement on the side. Yeah, so we're about four or five different groups working on actively on ice and snow.
Okay, right.
Cool. And welcome, Galen. It's good to have you on. We're just going around the table, and since you joined us, why don't Galen tell us who you are, what team you work for? Give us a bit of an intro.
Oh, sure. So I'm Galen. I work with Mousebuilt and working on a lot of the like engagement on ice and snow. Trying to help coordinate ideas, like what features should go into the chain, as well as try and work with a lot of the Mousebelt side where they get that out to schools. They work on like trying to really grow the developer community and product adopted.
Cool. Okay, excellent. So, I wanted to zone in before we've been talking a bit about snow. I want to ask you about your experience, because what led the team down the Polkadot Kusama roadmap? Why did you all find, was it Substrate? Did you find Substrate a solution to build in crypto? What was appealing about the Substrate solution? I want to learn a bit more about that. Abhinav, or who wants to kick things off here?
So I think when we started, the plan was always to use Substrate as the library or the bootstrapper engine to build the chain. But slowly, once we started discussing about this, more and more like people in the team thought that it's a good idea to maybe introduce the Icon ecosystem and ice and snow ecosystem into the Polkadot ecosystem also, since due to the interoperability that the dot ecosystem offers, and since Icon also always had interoperability as one of their key features that they always wanted to have, right? So this would only enhance the overall vision. And snow ice could potentially be the middle layer or the connecting factor that could connect the BTP connected chains with all the parachains that are connected to the Polkadot Kusama ecosystem. So I think the discussions organically grew from being one of the side chains to maybe go and join the Polkadot ecosystem. I think, that's how I think of it.
Cool.
Okay. I have a question about Substrate. That's because Substrate is a framework that helps you build a blockchain. Is that correct? I'm just going to stick with Abhi for this, or Galen, if you will. So
I think the person who could best answer this is probably Mo. He's been living and breathing Substrate for the past, 8 months.
Well, Mo, the question really is, like, if I would sit down and open up my laptop and try to code a blockchain, vanilla, so to speak, or if I would decide to use the Substrate framework to build a blockchain, like, how does the Substrate framework help and assist and maybe speed up development? What does it bring?
Like Substrate is really revolutionary in many ways. One is if you want to start to build your own blockchain, you could go the route of Polygon. You could fork Ethereum, for instance, and you would pretty much be sort of on the you can split up a network and pretty much live in a short amount of time, or But with Substrate, it gives you a lot of. First, it's based on a modular framework. You have this composability of pallets, where pallets makes up part of this network runtime. So in terms of computation, you have these two separate layers where your compute is completely independent of anything else in terms of consensus and other things. And you have all this underlying, let's say, peer-to-peer or libp2p that communicates to any other nodes as part of the substrate. Again, that's a separate layer that doesn't really interfere with anything else you want to build on the top. So Substrate gives you a lot of, it's native to Polkadot ecosystem, but you can, as mentioned, start it either just side chain or even solo, which is a lot of network actually has gone this route. But then you get also that given benefit of being able to be a parachain, inherit the security of the network if you succeed to secure a slot, which is what we're doing. And then you get a lot of active development that happens in the network as well. For example, Substrate itself comes as vanilla, doesn't have things like EVM, but then you have this frontier fork, which is another separate module that based on Substrate that gives you this capability. So we integrated frontier. And then you have other things like WASM Inc. smart contract, which doesn't come by default, but it's as simple as just adding another dependency and configuration to network. And then you have all this like power of Legos that you just put together, and you pick and choose how you actually want to build your network. And you get really up to speed quickly with that. Some of the challenges, of course, just for transparency is the Substrate is very cutting edge, and what Parity does, they always active in terms of, there's always a new release, there's always things changing all the time, so you have to keep up with this. The other things you need to consider as well is it's based on Rust, and Rust is quite a niche language in terms of the small amount of community that work in this area. So at the time we started, before we actually get fall on board like Rust team members, we had to learn a lot of stuff ourselves as well. And that's just the other other part about Substrate. But it's definitely ticks all the boxes if you want to pick a framework to build your own blockchain.
Cool. It sounds like, indeed, you mentioned Legos, like you get to build like Legos, you get to build your blockchain with all the unique features that you would like. And I think that appeals to everyone who's ever played with Legos.
Yeah, I was just thinking, Mo, as you were saying it, it's like building your PC versus a Mac or something that's, like if you get the product, that's what you get. There's variations in the different lineup. But a PC, you go and you pick each and every one of your parts. I want this hard drive, I want this to do that. The Substrate pallets are kind of like that, right? And they're, as you said, constantly evolving. So you go to the Substrate store and all of a sudden there's a new part that enables this and can enable your blockchain to tackle storage in a better way on a different manner. So pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah, go Galen. Sorry.
To comment on that a little bit more, Substrate isn't the only one of these. There's many ecosystems that have all tried to realize that if someone wants to build a blockchain, why do they start from scratch? Mm-hmm. So you can see the Tendermint ecosystem has one. Other blockchain networks are trying to, create this concept of side chains anchoring consensus in one thing. I think personally that Substrate just has the best one. They have a lot of really compelling features, and there's some things that the Parity team spent a really long time getting right compared to the competition, and they've got right in a really interesting way. So one of them is the 4+ upgrades. So Mo could probably tell you a little bit more about this, as he's dealt with it a little bit more. But this is one of the really compelling features where you don't have to rely on miners to all coordinate and install and update and hope that you don't have the miners splitting and your network forks every time you upgrade. the runtime of the chain is actually published, so all of the miners can download the latest software as it's voted in on the network without changing any of the software they're running. So the users vote what the miners run on their computers.
Okay. So the miners don't control it. The users will vote it in. Okay. I was curious. As soon as you mentioned it, I wanted to know. I hadn't explored how that aspect worked. I was curious to know. Yeah.
In layman's terms, does that mean that previously, for every software update that you would want to put through, there was a risk that the network or that your blockchain would split up into two versions, as opposed to with Substrate, where that is no longer a risk?
I would say any system where you have a bunch of different parties all running software. I don't control what you run on your computer.
Thank God.
Like if you're running, you could run whatever you want. The whole point of a blockchain is often it's not trusting one single party to do whatever you want. And we've seen issues where there have been bugs in a network and miners all have to deploy an emergency fix.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've noticed this on Icon, where when the network launched, everyone had to install software updates and like restart their servers at the same time. There've been a lot of these instances, and this is a really cool approach that you'll find inside of Substrate to handle this type of thing. And there are plenty more features. I'm sure Mo could probably speak to them more than I could too.
Yeah, you've given me a lot of ideas now, Galen. But there's just thinking about what they've mentioned right now is about the risk of forking. That forking anyone can fork. Even you can fork Polkadot itself, but it doesn't really matter. It's not going to have the same value of the network. Some people can say, okay, we're going to start our own parallel Polkadot relay chain, but it's going to be entirely pointless. And the forkless upgrade itself is beside the fact that it's really a clever feature of Substrate. You can't really go without having this feature in the first place, given that you need to be on a secure slot, and you need to have a validated state on the relay chain all the time. So if someone today tried to fork a parachain, it's not going to be a parachain anymore. They can fork it, but it would be their own network. So it's not like you can just switch a fork chain and connect back to that slot. That's not going to happen. So this is why the forkless upgrade is very important. It's a very important feature of Substrate and parachains.
So Mo, you said a few things here, and I always remind myself 2 months ago when I didn't know much about dot and Kusama, when I was hearing this stuff, it was just foreign language. And even though I was dealing with crypto and doing so many things in crypto, it just sounded foreign to me. So a couple of things you touched on, and I want to clarify, is the forkless update. So because you secure a parachain slot, and in turn, that means you're getting security. So traditionally, Icon or many of the Cosmos chains, even though they're connected, their chains need their own validation and they provide security for their own networks. In the dot ecosystem, that is the biggest difference, because once they bid and secure this parachain slot, which connects them to Polkadot or Kusama, in our case, Snow is connecting to Kusama, the security of the chain is given by Kusama. So we don't need to have, that decentralized, the instant we get that slot, whereby as decentralized as Kusama is how decentralized our network, Snow network, would be. Is that correct?
Yeah, and if I just want to touch about a little bit on that, in terms of how the security works on the ecosystem, is when you become a parachain, you're not running validators anymore. You're running collators, and these collators, from the name, what they do, they actually collect a batch of blocks that is produced by the collectors on the parachain network itself, let's say in the case snow or ice, and then they send this up to the relay chain along with something called POV, proof of validity, and this is what actually gets validated. So the actual validators is running on the relay chain, and this is where security comes from. So the point when you're running collators or parachain, you're not really actually verifying these blocks. You're just sending a proof for it, and then the validators in return on relay chain does the job of securing the network. I don't know if that does answer your question, Fez.
No, that helps a heap. Yeah, and that's a variation between. So when you hear all the parachains that connect to each of the systems, they'll have their own collators, and they collate that information for their chain and feed it back up to Polkadot, Kusama, which verifies and goes, yes, that's correct, and sends it back. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I was wondering about Substrate. We're talking about the ease of Substrate and how easy it becomes, or I'm not going to say easy, relatively easy to build your blockchain just the way you like it. Does the ease of Substrate also extend to the builders who eventually will be looking to build on top of that blockchain? The builders who want to build dApps on top of Snow, for example. Not sure. Abhi might have the best answer to this question. Am I directing it right?
Yeah, maybe I can just jump in over here. So, if anybody wants to build a dApp on top of Snow, all right. So since Snow is going to be EVM compatible right out of the box, the day it goes live, right? So all those EVM based tooling, like let's say Solidity based tooling, libraries like OpenZeppelin and Truffle, Hardhat, all the ecosystem is going to work right out of the box. So a lot of developers who are already familiar with these tools can just start building right away. So I think that is one of the areas that will bring in a lot of ease for developers who are already onboarded into the Web3 space. The other aspect is there is also Ink as a language that can be used to build the dApps. So it also has a fairly good say tooling and environment where it is capable to build dApps using those. But yeah, I think for users to get started, I think a lot of resources and materials are already out there for the Solidity space. And yeah, definitely for a little bit people who are more familiar with Rust and already are familiar with Substrate and Polkadot, I think using Ink and building dApps around that is going to be more native to them.
Cool. So if is Solidity, that's the Ethereum language? Am I okay to say that?
Yeah.
What is Ink? Is that the Polkadot language for builders, or am I just making this too straightforward or easy?
Yeah, it is a language that is I think created by Parity. So it is a DSL that is built on using Rust. So it does not have all the capabilities that Rust has, but it has been the language has been like curated so that it is really easy to build smart contracts with and caters to that. And it's a domain-specific language for building smart contracts using Rust.
And Parity, that is the team behind or the foundation behind Polkadot and Kusama, just to be clear.
Yes, and the team that are behind Polkadot, Kusama, building Substrate, they are the ones who maintain Substrate.
Yeah, and then our Snow and Ice blockchains will be catering to people who want to build with Ink, and let's call them the Ethereum crowd who want to build with Solidity. So we're welcoming everyone.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
in the words of Gavin Wood, the belief is, or the vision, legacy is important, which is solidity, and EVM and WASM and ink are the future. This is how they see it, and I could relate to that a little bit in terms of how being sort of brought into the entire space and the technology stack on Variety side.
Wow. Can we confirm that Gavin Wood has called Snow and Ice blockchain the future?
It's not
Specifically.
taking into that yet, but we'll try.
So if I would, sorry, Galen, you cut up. What did you say?
I'd say that's a transitive equivalence, but
We'll take it.
Yeah. Okay, so if I were to go around very quickly and ask each of you, what's got you most excited about being part of the parachain ecosystem? What would you say? So let's do a roundtable. Galen, you go first. What's got you most excited being part of the parachain ecosystem?
So I think it's really cool to see what BTP can do with existing parachains. I had started out as trying to be an application chain and a way to connect all these blockchains together. And making a really good developer product and like growing a developer ecosystem is really difficult. And being a way to connect a bunch of blockchains is also really difficult. I think it's probably too much to bite off for those two things. And Icon is really focused right now. You can see a lot of the core developers are really heavily focused on launching Icon Bridge, launching BTP, just making a really good way to call anything on any blockchain, bring it here, or call out to somewhere else. I've been seeing the progress there. It looks really cool. I'm actually quite excited about it. I guess what really excites me about Snow and Ice is the ability to tap into that and bring it into the Polkadot ecosystem, where you have XCM. We're on the iteration, right? You can see Gavin Wood was pushing diffs in, trying to get it done. And they made a really cool product there where you can interact. I believe they called it teleporting, where you're moving an asset that both parachains register the same way. So you can move assets between chains. You can come up with DeFi compositions where like you're creating an asset on one chain and using it speculatively on another chain, or maybe you're getting a loan somewhere and moving it elsewhere to leverage it. So parachains are really good at interacting with each other, but not as good at interacting with the outside world. I think Icon is really good at interacting with the outside world. We're hoping that Snow and Ice can be kind of the convergence point where we can really rapidly test ways to implement BTP very well and see what that does to the parachain world.
Cool. No, that's awesome. Mo, what about you? What's got you most excited?
Yeah, it's really a lot of what Galen said. The composability of these cross-chain applications. One of the things I can't help but keep thinking about is you have Icon, where you have this JVM and Java smart contract, dApp ecosystem, and then you have Ice or Snow, where you have Solidity, EVM, and Ink, WASM. This trio is interesting. I'm not necessarily saying they bring all together some harmonious, application system, but it does bring a lot of. I'm pretty sure it can drive a lot of innovation. As soon as you bring a lot of diverse community of people together and everyone just doing something from their strong skill set based on smart contract development. But then the other thing about being a parachain is you're not alone. You basically become part of this ecosystem. It's just incredible, and all of a sudden you find yourself have to actually speak to them. You have to speak to Akala, you have to speak to Aster, all these groups. You really have to speak to them. Sometimes it looks like we're overlapping or competing, but all of us actually, after being in events a few times recently and I've met them, they actually think that all these 100 parachains or so, eventually you need to be as part of one community. There's no competition. They have to talk to each other. And that also is facilitated not just by, we're talking about, verbal communication. We're talking about technology point of view. You have the XCMP or XCM, which is all this native messaging between the parachains will be there, which is going to empower things around when you have some parachain that is specialized in something, or they have strengths. Let's say you have Akala, where the issue stable token. You don't have to issue your own USDC or USD, or AUSD, which is the Akala version of stable USD. You don't have to worry about having something like this to implement, and it's no, you don't. You could still do it because you can always have a variant of the same thing, but you could instead just partner up with Akala and just get that integrated. There's a lot of similar examples and use cases like this, even with privacy or things like scalability. The same mechanism applies, because and this is the whole idea of the sharding architecture from the beginning. Is when this all started addressing the Ethereum scalability issues 2015, when the white paper, Broker white paper came out, and that's what I'm excited about. Beside the whole other points of BTP and icon integration.
Yeah, I think I really like one of your points there, because of the way the parachains can talk to each other in such a secure manner, rather than, because when you see a blockchain at launches, majority of them that are wanting to onboard devs and want them to build dApps, one of the first go-to things is an AMM and some kind of a stable coin that uses their token to back it. But this example you gave, it's not about competing, creating another stablecoin or anything, but it's actually utilizing the architecture to get Snow and Ice in there as collateral types that can enhance and enable, that their stablecoin to spread its wings and get more adoption, etc. So it's a really cool way of looking at it, because the stablecoin world is there's too much. There's too many. You go to the top 100, half of it is stablecoins. But thanks, Mo. That's a real good take as well. Abhi, have you got anything you want to add on top?
Yeah. I think Galen covered most of what I would also answer. So interoperability between two ecosystems, right? The Icon BTP connected ecosystem and the parachains, and it being bridged over by Ice and Snow. That I think what excites me the most. More so thinking what kinds of applications, interoperable applications would be built utilizing this. Is there going to be what kind of DeFi products would be built, or what kind of GameFi products would be built? So I think thinking about that is the thing that will excite me the most. The dApp that's going to utilize this opportunity.
Yeah, cool. I think one of the next questions we were going to ask is, what is a killer feature for Snow for the DOT and Kusama ecosystem? But I feel you'll have already covered that with regards to BTP and interoperability.
Does it surprise you that the tech guys, their favorite thing about Snow is the tech?
Yes.
I mean, I do think there's something that we're really doing to innovate here, and this is something I've been working on. Abhinav and I have been kind of contributing to the idea, but Mo has really been taking the lead on, which is the BTP-pallet. And currently this is getting submitted as a grant. I think if you're thinking about kind of what is one of the killer technical features, I think Mo could probably run us through this a little bit.
Yeah,
What is a
there's
What is a pallet?
yes. So pallet is actually what you implement to make up your node runtime. So, and these are composable components that does different things. For example, you have a palette for assets, or a palette for democracy, or a palette for governance, or even staking. And these are part of the compute layer that I mentioned earlier in the introduction about Substrate. And basically, they have a lot of more edge over smart contract. First, they need to be built as part of the network runtime, so you can't just add them to a running network. Well, you can if you have the authority or the governance process to do runtime upgrade, and people voted for that. So you can add new pallets, and this is how you evolve the network. But pallet itself is just sort of as just a runtime application layer where you add features to the existing substrate node, and this is how you make yourself different from other substrates. So you can write custom pallets that does. For example, Abhi team have built the airdrop pallet, which takes care of all the on-chain claim for the airdrop. And that was interesting because it required some to the off-chain signature from ICX wallets, but then you're able to verify that right on Snow itself.
So Mo, can I just quickly? I didn't realize that the airdrop was built as a pallet. Does that mean a year from now, another chain is looking to build, they can go and look at this airdrop pallet and see if they wanted to utilize it in similar fashion that Icon has, and they could utilize it and integrate it as part of their chain?
Yeah, Abhi can comment more on that, but yeah, it's written
Given it's a pallet.
Yeah, so yeah, it is going to be a palette that's going to be open sourced and shipped with the code for Snow and Ice. They can reuse, I think, a lot of the components, but there is some code specific to Icon, like the signature verification stuff. So if they just modify that, and the use case is pretty similar, yeah, it would be available to reuse.
Okay, great. So yeah, that's cool. So it's basically they enable little features to the core of the chain. So when it's like a builder is at a computer store picking all its parts and going, yes, this is the rig I'm going to build, and this is going to be my blockchain. And so Mo, you were going to tell us about the BTP pallet.
Yeah. So there are the few sort of ideas that has been evolving here about this. One that involves like a full-blown integrated BTP, which is we did in fact put some thoughts around a grant for it. And the idea is just simply everything that you do with a relay, that external relay that runs which is written in Golang today for the actual other chains between Icon and other integrations, you write it completely as part of the network, and that gives you a lot of it gives you a lot of optimization that you could do because you're running as part of the node itself, and then it can become sort of signed as part of the block transaction right away. You don't have to listen to a block event later on to do it. You do it as part of this off-chain process. But that was one idea. We had it on sort of kind of on the side for now, to be honest. But the other really cool feature we thought about recently, because it's more achievable in short term, is to integrate BTP with XCMP. So how do you send? How do you actually use Snow as a hub? So such that you can start like remote transactions or remote requests from Icon side to any of the other parachains through Snow. Because if you have Snow already has XCMP channels with other parachains, or even just by default you're able to just send messages between them because of the native XCM implementation or provided in the substrate. How do you then actually how do you use BTP to add other services to talk through that? And we think there's some benefits here, some actual real world case or use cases that we could think about. For example, and this is, I don't want to just give away that something that may not necessarily solidified yet, but this is still in discussion. The actual technical grant is actually there, so we discussed it. We even proposed it to Parity, but the one idea, for example, you could have a backed reserve of ICX on a Snore ice that will help the dual tokenomics, some of the dual tokenomics features that we're thinking about to be a collateral. And then you can control this from Icon itself. So you're able to actually issue or communicate that through there. You can also have another reserve of that ICX and other parachains as well, if there is a use for it. Let's say you have, again, Akala, they can become trusted issuance of ICX, and that reserve can be controlled from the governance on Icon network itself, not a Snow, because you have this independence still. And this is just really a real use case scenario.
When you say reserve, you mean like moving a bunch of the tokens onto that chain and then they can do things with it? So use as collateral, things like that, or?
Yeah. It's like theoretically, it's like you're not necessarily moving because but you at least have you're able to control that locking mechanism from the network itself and issue that automatically on the other network. So all is done from where you think the governance should be operated from. So so you give that authority that is needed on the network that it's meant to actually own their own native token and down on the and therefore you have that reserve just maintained remotely.
Cool. No, that's great. No, look, hopefully that comes to fruition, or we get to that stage of a BTP-pallet. I know you've given specific use cases, but it would open up a can of worms of exploring to see things we haven't thought of yet. Look, I think we've been talking for a while. I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I'm sure David has as well. I thought,
yes, sir.
Yes, good. Let's skip a little bit and talk through, because obviously, when I think of when I really understood the parachain ecosystem, the Polkadot ecosystem, I love the Crowdloan concept because it very much reminded me of ICOs, but you're not just taking a stab at anything and throwing your valuable ETH away in that case in a hope of making 10x. The crowd loan is around locking up your collateral in something you believe in and what a potential parachain is and what they're bringing to the parachain, to the Polkadot ecosystem. So I was wanting to know, like, what are your views on that? How do y'all feel that's a fair comparison in like ICOs is dead and the crowd loans really enables people to work a little bit differently? Do y'all think that way, or is this just a thing I've compared it to terribly?
Well, I guess it's definitely two different fundamental things. Like one of them, you're like with a ICO, you're definitely, it's like an investment. Like you're giving up ETH to acquire some asset. A crowd loan, this is just sort of like interest or a reward or something that's paid on what you're lending. There's some value that you'd be able to realize for that, because you could stake Kusama or stake your Polkadot, and you would get some return on it. So you are giving up that return that you would get by staking it because you want to lock it up and for one parachain, and also parachain over other parachains that you might lock it up for. So there's definitely still market dynamics at play where you're still locking it up where you think you'll get the best return. and that money might do something for you. You could lend it out. Maybe you don't want to go to one of the crypto lending services anymore because they all defaulted, but before you might have gone to one of those. There's definitely, it is certainly different from an ICO. You're not giving it away in an investment, but it does, you're still very concerned with the asset that you're giving it to, how it'll perform, what it'll do for you.
Yep. Agree. Avinayak, Mo, any thoughts?
Yeah, I do agree. So Crowdloan are fundamentally different mechanism. They introduce the opportunity risk essentially but it also has something more similar to what would be a fair distribution, because well, it depends on how the tokenomics of the parachain Crowdloan is done. But it would be more closer to what would be a fair distribution is, as opposed to participating in things like pre-sales or ICOs, private sales, or all these stuff. So yeah, they are different, and they way better also in terms of the ICO, because by the time you get to be a parachain, you'd have to prove yourself a lot. You have to actually do some actual upfront work, as opposed to starting an ERC20 token that claims to back certain aspects of a project, and that's all what you need to do. So yeah, there's a lot of things you have to spend 8 months just to basically get that first version of our parachain to deploy, and we've overdone the testing. So there's a lot of things you have to actually do first to participate in Crowdloan.
And these things we've done with Snow and Ice, correct? I mean, we're targeting now. This Crowdloan is set to launch around auction 51, which is in about roughly 4 weeks. I'm estimating for the Snow network. How can users contribute to the Crowdloan for Snow? Like what's the ways or singular way that they can do that, Abhi?
Yeah, so definitely there are multiple ways that a user can contribute to a Crowdloan. I think the recommended way, or the best, would be to go to the Crowdloan dApp that we have built, the Snow team has built, and just contribute from there. You can use your Polkadot.js extension wallet, or if you already have Talisman wallet or a sub wallet, you can just use that, connect your wallet, and just specify the amount you want to contribute, and hit submit and sign the transaction. So that's all you need to do. I think that's the easiest way. You can also go to Polkadot.js apps, the Explorer apps the Polkadot team provide. Under the network tab, there is the parachain option, and there's also your Crowdloan is also going to show up over there. So you can contribute using that also. We also have partnered up with a few partners, like Bifrost has a contribution dApp that's live, who is going to be one of our partners. So you can go to their dApp for contribution, where they also list the Crowdloans that are open or for Kusama and that have partnered with them, and you can contribute using going over there. Again, connect your Polkadot.js wallet and just simply contribute. And finally, if you have your mobile wallet, Nova or Fearless wallets, you can also contribute using that. So if you open our dApp in your mobile and click contribute, it's going to redirect you to the mobile wallet, and you can then further contribute using them. So yeah, these are the different ways.
Loads of ways. I think, yeah, the more ways to contribute, the better, I suppose. That way, the Crowdloan will reach more people.
Yeah, correct.
Is there any unconventional ways to contribute that we can think of? I don't believe so. I think the some exchanges they offer the functionality, or is that just the Polkadot? Like if people want to plug into Polkadot Crowdloans, I've seen it before on Kraken. They offer like parachain auctions, but I think that's like Polkadot, and with Snow, We're aiming to get a parachain slot on the Kusama relay chain.
Yeah, I'd say
So I think
most of the centralized changes are really aimed at Polkadot for the Crowdloans. I'd have to check if some do Kusama. It's something that ICE may pursue.
Cool.
And I have one more question. Sorry, Fez. The projected, the rewards that are projected. You contribute, for example, 1 Kusama token. You're projected to receive 4,000 snow tokens, and on top of that, up to 4,000 snow token early bird rewards. So the earlier you get in, the more you get. These rewards, do you get these if you contribute through all these mechanisms, or do you only get the rewards if you contribute through the main Snow Crowdloan website? Just curious.
Yeah, you're gonna get these extra incentives if you contribute through any of them. The extra rewards. Cool. Only the referral. There's also an extra referral program that is exclusive to the Snow Crowdloan dApp. But the early bird rewards, it's applicable to all these options.
Right. So yeah, the referral is where I generate the code, I send it to Fez, Fez contributes, and we both get an additional 5% reward. So for that program, you have to go to the Snow dApp, which is on the Snow website. Okay.
Yeah, and the good news is we at CryptoSetups have actually covered the 3 ways: Poke.js, Bifrost, and via the website, and how you generate referral codes in a separate tutorial. So we'll link that at the end of this. So if you want to explore and be prepared for when the Crowdloan commence, you can and learn all about it. So guys, look, really enjoyed having everyone on. We have more questions and we can keep going, but got to give you your time back in your day so you can get back to finishing Snow and, doing everything related to that, and obviously live your normal lives. But any closing words, anything that you want to drop before we close out this interview? I'll do a round table. Mo, closing words?
Well, I feel like
we only
we probably should. We probably should, like you said, there are many questions and there's a lot of interesting discussions. So we should just do this again after we launch hopefully, fingers crossed, we go live with the campaign and go live with the network, because this is what we're all waiting for, and looking forward to it as well.
Cool. No, exciting. Galen?
Oh, yeah, same for me. I think it would be great to come on again, maybe do a deeper dive into some features. But yeah, it's in verse.
Sounds good. Abhi?
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for having us. And again, we are really close to the release. I think we are getting there. We've worked. I think it's been about a year now. We're really hard on this, so we're really close to the release, and it's all exciting times.
Yeah, no, excellent. Thanks, guys, for having. And one thing that Mo was talking about when we were talking about the Crowdloan and how the process works, so that everyone knows. And correct me if I'm wrong here. Before the Crowdloan even kicks off, you have submitted the blockchain final code, the full build. It is ready, and as long as the chain wins a slot, it's ready to get deployed. Is that correct?
Yeah, we probably have to do it again as we get closer, because we might just get a more sort of recent update. But like you said, the version already there, the release, everything is locked in. So in terms of release, it's been locked in already. It's been done, and we overdone the testing multiple times. So we don't foresee any change in that kind of plan. But yes, that's true.
Cool. No, guys, it's been a pleasure having you on. Digital Dave, thank you for joining me as well today, helping co-host.
Thank you. Thank you guys as well for coming on. I think our listeners have had a good session of understanding now. So quite thankful for that.
Yeah, well, we're going to get you all on and keep diving. Oh, there's so many more questions. But thanks again, guys. Take care. We'll chat soon.
Thanks, Biz and Dave. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.